satisfying that person who has lost his daughter or somebody who's lost his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
You know, if they feel satisfied with us, see what happens in court of law is beyond us.
Yeah.
We can only ensure that our investigating officer is diligently attending the court, presenting the facts. So I think once you have done your job well, there is no scope for frustration.
How did you make the connection between Jigna's murderers, Jigisha's murderers and Soumya's murderers? How were you able to connect the two?
So when
I
we,
found that fascinating.
so when Jigisha was murdered, so we caught these guys. So when we interrogated, because area was same, the way,
That Vasant
yeah,
Kunj area.
Vasant Vihar area,
Vasant
yes, and their movement was quite patterned, and while we interrogated them, we made sure that we took out everything which they had done earlier.
Ah,
So then they confessed to doing this crime of
right.
Soumya also.
Was it a shock to you?
No, the way they had executed this Jigisha
Jigisha's
Ghosha's
case.
case, we had a fair bit of hunch that they would be involved in Soumya too.
And yet, I was just wondering, Mr. Dhaliwal, when you heard of the 2012 case, were you shocked? Were you surprised? Were you thinking, oh my God, almost the same area, the same kind of thing? Did that shock you?
No, not really.
Human nature has ceased to shock you.
No, see, I mean, you know, I think I can relate to these people at different levels. I
Right.
am not judgmental, right?
Right.
So when I'm interrogating, I don't try to judge. I don't want to look down upon the criminal. I know he has a lot of, character in a one sense. You know, it may be some negative thing. Because to commit a crime is not that easy.
Yeah, and to commit such horrific crimes.
Yes. So you need a lot of boldness, lot of courage, lot of things to do it.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. And I know enough of their family backgrounds. I have interrogated enough people to be able to, everybody has a story, right?
Yeah.
Every criminal has a story behind him. They did not start being born a criminal.
No child is born a criminal.
So somewhere down the line,
Something happened.
some things go wrong. Some things are like beyond them. Some things just happen. I mean, So sometimes it is very difficult to, so that's why I don't even judge actually. I don't judge.
You have a lot of empathy in a way for them.
Yes, I always like to listen to their story. I'll always spend huge time. The more hardened he is, the more time I spend. And all have a story.
Has someone really surprised you sometimes with their story? Have you been surprised, my God, how tragic this person's life was, and sometimes you find yourself almost sympathizing with the killer?
Not for the crime, but I sympathize for a lot of things which I know could have gone very different for them.
And the topic of our conversation is why crimes are rising. I mean, there is this sense that the disparities one is seeing in society are so obvious that people who don't have enough would like to get it, as you said, the easy way. That's one of the reasons. There's also the question of new migrants, them not understanding everything that goes on in a city. What do you think is the biggest reason, especially the crimes against women, which involves so much violence, even if there's no rape? The kind of violence that is inflicted on the woman's body, it's quite ghastly.
See, one thing I feel is that if you really look at in terms of maybe percentages or the increase in population, I mean relatively it may be just same.
Yeah.
I think reporting is much higher.
Much higher than it used to
I
be.
mean, it's so easy to report earlier. Everybody had to go to a police station.
Yeah.
Now you can do it online, right? So that makes a huge difference to the numbers being reported. And also, I would say that like everybody has smartphone in their hand. I
Yeah.
mean, people are able to see how the crimes are,
Yeah.
managed, staged, committed, planned. To that extent, I think there's this explosion of information also, and relative anonymity of bigger cities
Yeah.
coming into play now. And then a lot of crime has also increased because that everybody is now tech oriented, and online crime is huge now. And as far as crime against women is concerned, I think in terms of absolute numbers of rape cases, in terms of percentage of population, etc., it may not be that kind of increase. But now there's so many sites, etc. Like, everything is so easy now to
Yeah.
be accessed in your hands.
And whether we like it or not, films, web series, this kind of YouTube content, it must be having an impact on the sensibilities of people, right?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Like I really see, I mean, the kind of songs you have promoting gun culture.
Yeah.
I always see that a young boy sitting in a hostel far away from family, having some money,
Yeah.
and you are like drinking with your friends, and you are listening to these peppy songs where you are like, they are like promoting some kind of gun culture or standing for your friends, and not holding back, even if it means taking a recourse to violence.
Yeah.
So all this can have a very it's like a very potent mix.
Yeah,
To,
it's a
it's like a
potent drug.
tinderbox.
Yeah. So, can we talk about the Sidhu Moosewala case? Because here you have an icon, literally, of popular culture in Punjab. Uh, and you grew up in Patiala, so you probably know Punjab intimately. And we've all heard about the drug culture, the gun culture there. How much of it was, how much of Sidhu Moosewala was a product of that culture? And let's talk about the murder and how the way it was constructed.
Yeah, so in terms of planning, it was absolutely very well planned crime, because you have a mastermind who is in a jail,
Right.
and you have the main people organizing crime. One is in Dubai,
Yeah.
one is in now in Kenya, one was in Azerbaijan, one was
Imagine.
in Canada.
Wow.
And imagine the extents of the recce happening, that a person in a rural area who does recce of Sidhu, and he reports that he's about to move from his house, he calls Canada.
Right.
So the guy in Canada calls the shooters
Right.
that
Who
you
are-
move in.
who are-
who are in 10 odd kilometers away from the scene
Right.
of crime. The shooters are different modules from Haryana, Punjab.
Right.
The person who has delivered weapon to them roughly 2 weeks earlier, they do not know who the person is. And the person who delivers the weapon doesn't know who those guys
Who
are.
those guys are, yeah.
And even shooters didn't know much.
About who the
They're
target
just-
was.
They were told just few days in advance.
Right.
And guy who does recce doesn't know what this recce is being used for.
Amazing.
And after the crime, the weapons are separated from the shooters.
Right.
The vehicles are separated. There are like tens of different locations where they stay. And it is like very detailed. I mean,
Right.
it's a long story.
Right. So you were saying that you have to start thinking like the killers in a way to stay ahead of them.
Yeah, that is one part of it. I mean, there's a lot of, you have to work on jails, their syndicate members, where they had, their past associates. We picked up so many people from jails, interrogated them. It was very wide effort, I mean, over so many states, so many months.
Right. What was the connection in Azerbaijan and Dubai? I mean, you talked about Canada. Then how did
So
that
they were
link?
part of Lawrence Vishnoi's syndicate.
Right, right. So when you see something like that, does it astound you that something is so deeply embedded in our jails as well? Jails as well have become like this, the hub of a lot of crime planning, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me actually.
How can that be prevented?
It can't be fully prevented.
It can't. I mean, if you put criminals together, they will come up with more crime.
Even if you don't put them together, they still will crime.
Right. Let's talk a little about some of your earlier cases. Say the one that happened in Dholakua.
Just
Where-
couple of them, and then we.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry
No, no,
because
that's
I
okay.
find them quite fascinating.
I know that. Yeah, yeah. I have to actually go somewhere.
Sure. The one that happened in Dholakua,
Yeah.
where, the victim was of great help to you, and I think she gave very detailed descriptions, and that helps as well. That handling of the victim as well, it's a very sensitive and emotional task. So, and you think the police are rough and they're very brusque, but actually it involves a lot of emotional connect to people, doesn't it? Policing.
Yeah, this is a good one. So I can say the people, victims, I can say about myself. The people who we have dealt with, they will not have any chance to complain.
Right.
Whether they lost their family members or they themselves suffered any serious incident. In this case also, the girl was very shattered. She was raped by these four brutes. These people had these people used to pick cows from the road. Can you imagine? Four
God.
guys who are able to pick up a cow
God.
and slaughter it on their way in the vehicle. What kind of people would they be?
Right.
And these guys pick up this girl, rape her, dump her. So we did a lot of psychological counseling for her, gave her all the support, due to which she could recollect something. It was very small cues which she gave us, nothing much actually. She only recollected one word which was written on the left glass of the vehicle. She said there was something written with the word M.
Okay.
So she didn't remember the entire word. She only said it was some Hindi word written starting with M,
Right.
and that was the actually only clue she could give. So we figured out, because they had given her 10 rupee notes which were folded,
Right.
40-50 rupees to go back to her house
Yeah.
after they left her, after raping her. So we figured out that these kind of folded notes are actually by the vehicles who come in is a semi-transport vehicle
Right.
who cross the toll plaza at night.
Right. Right.
And M word, then we figured out after very extensive work, in Mewat region there are some people who write Muskan
Oh.
on the glass window pane of the vehicle.
Wow.
So that helped us zero down on Mewat region.
Okay.
And